Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, Horror Boy 465. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today, continue my reviews on the Creepshow films with my review of Creepshow 2. Now, this came out in 1987, gets a 6.0 on IMDb, directed by Michael Gornick. This is really the only movie he's done. He's also done some episodes of the Tales of the Dark Side series, the TV series, so that's pretty cool. But as far as films go, this is his only movie. You have screenplay by George A. Romero, so you still do have George A. Romero involved in this movie. Stephen King, it says Stephen King, but I think it was just based off of stories by Stephen King. I know that George Romero was involved, but I don't think Stephen King was involved too much. It says just based on stories. And Creepshow 2, really awesome cover art. I like that cover art, it's pretty cool. Midnight Madness series DVD. I don't really have too many of these DVDs. I've only got like I think one other one. That's of Children of the Corn, the original, which that's a series that I might touch on one day down the road. But see, the Children of the Corn series, I wouldn't mind touching on if there wasn't like freaking 9 other movies I had to review because there's a freaking giant franchise behind that movie, and a lot of them aren't good. And some of them I think are pretty underrated, but a lot of them aren't good. So I'll get to that franchise eventually, but that will probably be on hold for a while because there's so many movies behind it. But Creepshow 2, I really enjoy it. I think it's a great sequel. I think that, obviously it's not as good as the first movie. It has problems. And that's why I think like it was very hard to follow up the first movie because it was literally a flawless horror film. It was literally a horror film that did not have many problems. It's like trying to follow up Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Those movies are perfect films. Or Jaws. Those movies are all perfect. And the sequels, I feel, try their best to keep up with it. I think like Halloween 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and Creepshow 2 do very good jobs of following up the first movies. But, it does have problems. I can say that. It's not perfect, and I'll get into the problems in a second, but it has a lot of positive stuff to it. I feel like it has really good direction to it from Michael Gornick. I feel like he brings his own mood, his own lighting, his own choices to the film. I think George Romero also did a great job in the screenplay to make it feel like a different movie than the first movie, and I really enjoy that. And there are elements that, yeah, they don't work. Like, in my opinion, I'm not really a big fan of the whole animation segments, like the wraparound stories, all done in animation. Personally, I'm not a fan of it. It's not that it looks bad. It's just like I don't know. It's kind of weird being a creep show movie like that. And I get it. It's like, well, it's supposed to be like a comic book, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but the cartoon segments, the animation segments, kind of felt a little bit off for me, for some reason. Maybe it's just me, but I felt that it was a little bit off in the second movie. How there's those animation segments. Um, but I do think the movie has like its own feel, its own look. It's very well directed. Has characters that are good. I don't know if I would say they're better than the first movie. I would say the first movie had better characters, but this one definitely had some decent characters to it. Really good segments. I enjoyed all segments in this movie. I thought they were all fun and enjoyable, and some of them were actually pretty creepy. And yeah, I enjoyed the segments in the movie. I feel like it has this really great fun tone to it. It has a really fast pace to it. It's shorter than the first movie. It's about like an hour and 32 minutes, something like that. Yeah, about an hour and 32 minutes. So it's shorter than the first movie, goes by at a very fast pace, so I can say that all those things are positive. I'm also a really big fan of the score, because the score is another one of those elements that feels different from the first movie. It has its own type of score to it, an own like an 80s type score to it, and I really, really enjoy that. And I think that it has a lot of positive stuff going for it. I feel like it's an underrated sequel. You don't really hear too many people talk about Creepshow 2, and I think it's a fantastic sequel. Um, and I'll get into the problems in a second, but yeah, I feel like it's a very fantastic sequel. I feel that this movie could have had a massive advantage over the first movie in the fact that the segments, being the fact there's only like 3 segments total, um, I feel like they could have added a little bit more development to it. It's like, okay, we get less segments, and that is kind of a problem. But I feel like they could have built on those segments. They could have added extra detail to it. Didn't do it to the degree I wanted it to, but, you know, they try to capitalize on that the best they could. And I really enjoy the segments. I mean, the first segment is pretty good. The Chief Woodenhead first story, which is pretty cool about this, like, got the guy from Naked Gun. George Kennedy is the actor's name. And also, I'm going to mention that there are also pretty good cameos in this movie, like Tom Savini as the Creep, which I'll get into that in a second. You have some really great cameos in the movie. Again, not as good as the first movie's cameos and cast, but still very good cast. In this segment, Old Chief Woodenhead, the very first tale, you have these shop owners in the middle of pretty much nowhere, and this town is going downhill, and their shop is still up. And they are really good friends with this Indian tribe who offer all their greatest belongings to them in order to pay off their debts. And they say if they can't pay off their debts, then you can keep the diamonds and jewels and stuff. And when they leave, there are this group of criminals, and I really felt they did a great job with these criminals, or like these punks, where one of them's like obsessed with going to Hollywood. He's like, this hair's gonna get me paid and laid. And the guy did a really great job of being just a massive douche, a dickhead, and he really did a great job with that. And the rest of the characters, like, got this big fat guy they call him Fatso. He was pretty annoying. The other guy is Rich Boy, you know, the guy who's pretty much got the car. He's like, his daddy got him a Firebird, a freaking Firebird. And the segment is very well done. I mean, the bad guys play bad guys well. You hate their characters. They murder these two shop owners. And the two shop owners, I like the character development between them, because it's like they are still in this town. They still have this shop. They're nice people. They're hardworking people. And these scumbags come in and kill them. And old Chief Woodenhead comes back, which is on the back cover here. He comes to life, this wooden Indian statue. And I love the idea. I think it's a fun idea. It's a very enjoyable, entertaining idea where old Chief Woodenhead comes back. He has a tomahawk and arrows and stuff. And he murders the punks. You know, he shoots Fatso to the freaking head with the arrow. And then shoots a couple more in him. Takes a tomahawk and freaking smashes the guy's skull in, the Rich Boy character. And then the last character, the guy who's obsessed with going to Hollywood, he gets scalped. And it's a very well done segment where, you know, the old Chief Woodenhead reaches to the wall, grabs him, and like pulls him out, and you don't see him scalping him. But I felt the way that it was edited, it was one of those cutaways that I actually really enjoyed. It was very well done because it still captured that intensity. And the chief of this tribe goes back to the shop, finds old Chief Woodenhead with the scalp in his hand, you know, sort of stinks him, and that's pretty much the end of the segment. Which I was kind of like, there's dead people in that shop, you should probably go and alert the authorities, but, you know, the segment was very well done. The shop owner character did a really great job. George Kennedy did a really great job. Big fan of George Kennedy. I don't know about his wife. I think it was Martha. I wasn't really a big fan of the actress. Just no offense, but the acting wasn't too great from her. And I don't know, it could have been better acting from her. But the rest of the actors did a really great job. The scumbags did a really good job making you hate them. You absolutely despise these characters. And, you know, you feel bad whenever the shopkeeper gets killed because, like, him and his wife get killed because they were good people, you know, and they were just trying to make as much money from the shop as they could. And, you know, they were talking about how the shop got them married, got their kids to go to college. And I felt like in that segment, the development was very well done because you really hated these bad guys. And I just love the idea of old Chief Woodenhead come back to life and killing these people. It's a freaking fun idea, and I really love it. And then we get to the second segment, which is the raft. And basically, I really like this story because it's very well done. It's probably my favorite story of the three stories, and I love it. It's a great idea where these college kids, they're going out, they're partying, they go out to the middle of nowhere to this like lake, and there's this raft out in the middle of the lake, and they get out on the raft, and there's like this black sludge slime thing. I think is an oil slick or whatever, and it's in the water. It's a very creepy idea where this like substance is alive, and it's like slime and goo, and it's kind of like the blob a little bit, where if it gets on you, it like hurts and it pulls your skin away. Kind of reminded me of the blob in the water, like as if the blob was in the water, because I've seen the blob before. I haven't seen the original of the blob. I'm talking about the remake of the blob, which I really enjoy. But I like the part where, whenever it gets people and grabs people's arms or legs or whatever, it pretty much causes them to go in like pain. And I just like the idea. It's still a pretty creepy idea of this substance in the water, and it's alive, and it pretty much kills the kids one by one. You have one girl getting pulled in the water, and it's very creepy because it's all practical. You see, whenever they're trying to reach out of the black sludge, you see like their skin rotting away and melting away. You see their skulls. Definitely still a pretty gory movie. There's definitely a lot of good special effects in this movie. I forgot to mention that. It's got some really good special effects in it. And basically it kills all the kids off down to this one guy who survives. He swims back to the shore, and he beats the black sludge stuff because he's like, "Oh, I beat you." And he swims back to the car. He gets there, and he does a stupid thing. He stays like right on the shore, so this sludge stuff pretty much goes up and grabs him. I think it's a really great shot where you see like it's behind the character, and you just see the sludge come up and grab him. It's a very well done shot, and that's pretty much the end of the segment. And the camera pans over and it says "No swimming" on the sign. Very fun segment, very creepy segment, and it's very well done. Third segment is the hitchhiker, and the fourth, I guess, segment would be like the wraparound story. But the third segment is the hitchhiker. I also surprisingly really enjoyed this. Last time I watched this, I remember saying like, "Oh, I'm not really a big fan of it." I remember saying that I wasn't really the biggest fan of the segment, and that I felt that it was like a boring segment or whatever. But honestly, watching it again, when it got to the segment, I was like, "Oh, I'm not really a big fan of it." But honestly, watching the segment, I really enjoyed it because I felt that as far as atmosphere and mood and emotion, I felt that it had really great like storytelling in it, and it had like a really good message behind it as well, surprisingly. And I like how it focused around this character who's cheating on her husband, and she talks to herself a lot. She's like, "Oh, I gotta be here at 8 o'clock. Gotta be here at 7 o'clock." She basically talks to herself and says, "Oh well, that'll cost about $8,000, right?" It's definitely a good character trait, and you don't really like the character too much because she's cheating. She hits and runs. She hits this guy and kills him. And I like how it does a cool twist on a hitchhiker tale. Because you're expecting, oh, it's a hitchhiker tale. It's about her pick up the hitchhiker and something scary happening. No. Really, she hits the hitchhiker, and she does hit and run. She drives off. And it kind of reminded me of Twilight Zone, where she keeps seeing the hitchhiker. And he starts haunting her. And she's driving, and he attacks her. And you have really great stunt work. You have great, segments of driving a car through the woods, driving a car and trying to get this guy off the top of the roof. She hits him and runs him over. She shoots him, but he won't die. And she hits him against a tree and keeps hitting him again, over and over again. And when she wakes up, she thinks that, she had a dream, that it was all over. She goes back to her house where her husband is, and he's not there yet. She goes in the garage, and basically the guy is there, and his face, very good practical effect, his face is all smashed up, deformed. It was definitely a very creepy segment. And basically he kills her. And the husband comes home and finds her dead, and she has the sign that the homeless guy was holding. And that's pretty much in the segment. I think that the segment had really great mood to it. I really like the lighting. I really like the message behind it. Like, first of all, don't hit and run, and second of all, don't cheat on people. So that was pretty fun. The effects was done very well. Stunt work very well done. It was all practical, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the segment. It was. I don't know if I would say. I think it honestly would be at least of the three main segments be the weakest one, but I still really enjoyed it. Going back and revisiting it again, I definitely found a lot of enjoyment out of it this time, which is why I'm kind of like thinking, I'm like, why did I not like this segment? I really don't know why. I thought it had great storytelling, great message behind it, and great effects, great stunt work, great the way that the segment was shot was very well done. Um, and I overall enjoyed the Hitchhiker segment. And then we get to the wraparound segment, which is like the wraparound story, the ending of the wraparound, which I'm not really a big fan of because, like I said, it's all done in animation, and I don't like that. And it's a pretty weak wraparound story where there's this kid named Billy. He gets the Creepshow magazine, and these kids they take something from him, and they pretty much smash it into the ground, and they follow him into this abandoned part of the woods, and he has these giant Venus flytraps, and they eat the kids, and that's pretty much the segment. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really care for it too much because, first of all, I'm not really a big fan of the animation idea. It was just very basic, not much to it, kind of a wraparound segment. So that was probably like the weakest one. That's probably the only bad one in the movie is wraparound. Just didn't really care for it too much. And to get into a little bit of the problems, like I said, it's not as good as the first movie. I feel like as far as atmosphere and characters and stuff like that goes, it's not as good. But at the same time, I like the atmosphere, how it's different. I don't know how to describe that. I just think it has like a really neat atmosphere to it, but I wouldn't say it's as good as the first movie's atmosphere. Characters, they're good, but they're not as good as the first movie. In my opinion, the Creep, which it doesn't really make sense to have the first movie's Creep on the front cover because really the Creep in this movie is this character right there. It's Tom Savini. And I don't really like the character, the Creep in this movie too much. I feel like it would have been better if we got this Creep back because I think it's, no pun intended, it's creepier looking than this Creep. And I just like this Creep better. So yeah, that was a problem. Also, there's only about 3 main segments plus a wraparound story. That was pretty weak. Score. Honestly, the score I would leave out of this list because I like the score. Not really too many other problems with the movie. I mean, it's got problems, but not too many. It's like a lot of them are minor. A lot of them don't really hurt the movie too much. And the movie is underrated. I mean, I don't really hear too many people talk about Creepshow 2 that much. It's fun. It's still gory. It has great segments. It has great characters. It has a great mood to it, a great score to it. It is a great follow-up, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a very well-made movie. And I feel like it's going to be like a million times better than Creepshow 3, which I might review tonight. Oh my goodness. I gotta get ready for that movie. So yeah, that was my review for Creepshow 2. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't seen Creepshow 2, very good movie. Definitely recommend it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my review of Creepshow 2. It's a very good movie. Not as good as the first movie, but still a very well done sequel. And sadly, I gotta move on to the third movie. I don't even know if I'm ready for it, but I'm probably going to watch it around, I don't know when I'm going to watch it. I know I'm going to try and watch it later on tonight. I might get to a review on it. I don't know. All I know is that it's a possibility it's going to be a mega ultra freaking rant. So, yeah. When that happens, I'll do the review on it. How even long is the movie? I'm going to check and see how long this movie is. It's a 3 out of 10 on IMDb. I'm surprised it doesn't get lower than 3. An hour and 44 minutes. Gosh freaking dang, dude. I mean, it's not as long as the first movie, but it's longer than the second movie. I don't freaking know. All I know is that I gotta freaking get on to the third movie, and it's gonna suck. But I'll be doing that review a little bit later on. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review for Creepshow 2. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's a good movie. I definitely recommend it. And I'll see you guys in the next review. The Explorer of Horror, out.